Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. We are like that for a reason. To my regular listeners, you already know how I get down. You already heard from Miss Christine Burns from the Walt Institute, and we have the person that she spoke very highly about on that episode. We have her on the show now. We got Match through podmatch.com. Shout out to Podmatch. So, Elizabeth, with all that being said, there was a lot of things that I've been listening to you previously before we started. And, you have an incredible story. One of the things that I kind of resonated with when you were younger is when you spoke about kind of being the person that was on the outside looking in, being left in the background and stuff like that. So, to start things off, I think it might be best. Well, first of all, kind of introduce yourself, but also we speak a little bit about your background and stuff like that, because I know I kind of rushed you into it. I was just so excited to actually get you on. But the best way to start it off is just talk a little bit about your background, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was like, where do we start? Okay, the story.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
well,
I couldn't. I think is, and this happens on the show because this is 1,000% organic. The listeners know we keep it all the way funky here. We don't BS them at all. And the thing that really resonated with me when you were talking about your background is those feelings of kind of being the outsider looking in, and that's something I really kind of resonated with you as well. So, I'll give you an open slate to kind of speak on that a little bit.
Okay, beautiful. So I'm the youngest of 9 children. So I was born in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and born on a farm. And as the youngest of 9, people can probably imagine it's like, just keep quiet, just do what you need to do, just fit in with everybody else, because everybody else has got this sort of big mechanism called family that has to work because there's 11 people in the same house. And so I always sort of brought that on and went, I just need to be quiet and just follow the rules and do what they want me to along the way.
Yeah. I was the I wasn't the
yeah.
youngest of 9, but I was the youngest in my household. So that I could resonate with that.
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, we all take on these things in our childhood, and it's not right or wrong, it just is.
It just
Because
is
as a
right.
child, we interpret all
Yeah,
of these things as whatever we interpret.
right.
And so from there, it was like I didn't have a voice. I felt that I couldn't speak up, that I wasn't allowed to have opinions. I felt like I wasn't respected within my family because I'm just the little annoying sister. So that was my story that I'd made up, and I kept that for many years.
Right. So,
Yeah.
when you're in that feeling, and just for you listeners know, when you have those feelings and that kind of that intuition or the sense that you need to just keep up, or you sense that you need to be reserved and quiet, it can be easy. You can be easily taken advantage of. So I think when it comes to how you were able to build the Walt Institute and develop a mindset, develop a kind of a way of thinking, a psychology, a way you're thinking. Can you speak on when you started to realize that you do belong, or when you started to kind of find your place in this world and gave you the confidence to build and do the things that you're doing now?
Yeah, well, for me, it actually took nearly 50 years of
Mm-hmm.
working through things as a child, because I felt I didn't have a voice. Uh, I also experienced some a sexual abuse, and
Oh
as a
no.
child, and yeah, and within that, it was like I've been sort of working through that, recognizing that it was nothing to do with me. It was, I'm a child, that person was an adult. It was like that that doesn't define me. That incident does not define me, even though for quite some time I felt it did, and I felt ashamed, and I felt that I couldn't talk about it,
Right.
and that I had to again keep quiet
Yeah.
because I'm just the little girl in the corner, and
So
that
first of all,
little adage
yeah,
of children
before
should be seen and not heard.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to make sure I make this point very, very, very clear, so you understand you're not alone when you go through something like that, and you're not alone. I applaud your courage, because there's been several guests that have been on this show that have been gracious enough and courageous enough to open up about how they've been sexually abused when they were kids. And, you know, what I feel blessed and honored to be is to have a show in which you feel safe and comfortable enough to admit these things, but know that you're not alone, and that we can convey to the listeners that that circumstance does not define them. Every last one, this is now for you listeners, every last one of the people that have opened up about this particular situation growing up has gone on to become a very successful person, has gone on to, you know, overcome some absolutely incredible things, whether it was the female that was domestically abused, whether it was the male that was abused by another male, whether a female who was abused and got pregnant and then became a teen mother. All of these things, like I do this show from the goodness of my heart, and it's really humbling to know people feel that comfortable. But it's really for you listeners to know you can do anything. I don't give a shit what anybody I don't give a shit what you went through in life. I don't give a shit what you've been through as a kid or how unheard you felt. You can do anything if you work your way through it. And this is why this show is the #1 show on innovative teamwork. This is why this show does what it does. It's here to help you. So, you know, again, I applaud your courage for saying that, Elizabeth. And I would love now for you to really talk about the moments, you know, because I know it's going through something like that. It's about getting through each moment. Can you speak on some of the moments in which you were able to get over this? And now, again, you won't ever forget it. I understand that, but you're able to get through certain moments and saying, I am strong enough. I am powerful enough. I am able to go out and do what it is I have to do. Oh man, she got me preaching. Oh man, the microphone hot today. You got me preaching early. Just like you and Christine, like when Christine told me about the cancer survivor, was the same motion. It's like, okay, now y'all got me moving, baby. Anyway, go ahead.
Don't tell me to make my move. I'll do it.
Make you move. Thank you. Woo! Okay, we're back. All right, go ahead.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think the beautiful thing that I recognize now is that all of these things are like the tapestry of my life, because I used to fight this. I used to go, well, that was just shitty and it was horrible and I have to work through this and I'm broken and I don't know what to do and nobody supports me and nobody loves me and blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying blah, blah, blah on purpose, because it is the blah, blah that we make up in our own heads. And in that moment, it's our reality. And it's over the last 10 years of doing some work and also creating this business with Christine and learning so much more that from many different scholars and researchers and people, that I get to choose what I take from here forward. I can either keep saying I'm a victim, which I used to. I used to feel like I didn't say it because you didn't speak up. Right. I used to feel like it. And I get to choose if I want to keep that story going forward, or if I want to go, I'm an overcomer. I can fulfill my purpose. I can step into anything I want to step into if I choose to. And recognizing those moments, there's been certain little moments. One of them was at a retreat when just after Christine was diagnosed. Actually, we went to a meditation retreat not far from here, in the middle of nowhere, in this weird place with these strange people that I hadn't ever done a meditation retreat before.
Now, and was this before you started Walt Institute, or was this like during?
Yeah, it was sort of before, just before.
You started? Okay.
Yeah, just before. So it was when we're sort of talking about maybe we should amalgamate what we're doing, and because she would be coaching and training people, and I love to do that in my field of health as a health professional and researcher. Right. And I was like, maybe we could join them. Yeah. And so that was a moment during that time when I had this, it was an epiphany. It was that massive aha moment that it's like, oh my gosh, I remember looking vividly and doing this activity. And we looked in a mirror at the most beautiful thing in the world. We didn't know it was a mirror until we were up there. And there was a spotlight on the stage, which we didn't know. And I just stood in front of this mirror, and the spotlight was behind me. Brings tears to my eyes now. And I looked in the mirror, and it had this most beautiful music and beautiful, they set it all up, and all the people were around with supporting. And it was like, oh my gosh, I am enough. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to please anything. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to do anything. I'm born on this earth. I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the moments of absolutely shifting the last 10 years for me, of moving through into who I be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So before those moments, though, when was there a time in which you might have been really struggling with something, but you kind of put on a mask and you felt like, oh, you wanted to sort of show the world that you were fine? Because you mentioned a little bit about your career path, and you mentioned that you were a researcher, correct? You're a
I'm a
researcher.
researcher now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I
well,
was a
I'm talking
health
about before, like
professional.
when you were in your career, because and the reason I'm asking this is because what I've found, especially with people that have been through certain things that they haven't gotten over yet, is when they get into this working field in which they're like they're getting a check, they're getting a comfortable salary, they're out there just working. Sometimes they put a mask on, in many
Mhm.
ways that hurt you in so many ways. When you're like putting a mask on, you have your salary, you have your house, you start your family, all these things that you're growing as an adult and you're becoming, but you have this weight on your shoulder that you haven't been able to move past yet. Can you speak a little bit to those years before you had that moment in which you were on that retreat and you realized, wow, I got to get this lifted and I got to get this lifted now? That way, and the
Yeah.
goal for me is that anyone listening out there who may be having that weight on their shoulders now, that it gets them to move. It gets them to really shake it off, and it
Mm.
gets them to realize, hey,
Mm.
this thing is not helping anybody by keeping this on your heart, by keeping this on your back, by keeping all this weight. So, the floor is yours to kind of speak on that a little bit.
Absolutely. That for me lasted many years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you looked at my life, I was successful. I was
Right.
married with 2 children and a great job and status in New Zealand and in our Occupational Therapy Association. And I
Mm-hmm.
had it all together, and I was creative, and I was contributing to the children's work at the church, and I was reasonably fit and healthy. And it was like, yeah, if you looked at my life, it looked like I was doing okay. But I knew that I was just a shell. I was a total, absolute shell, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it actually took me a massive, I was taken out at the knees, basically. I experienced enormous burnout and severe clinical depression,
Wow.
and was unable for 3 months to look after myself. I could
Mm.
not even shower or anything.
Oh my
I
God.
was totally, totally unable to function. And it took me quite a number of years to rebuild from that.
Now
And
for your and
yeah,
I hate to pause you there because I want to make sure we're giving this some context though. But for your loved ones, like your husband and your kids and things like that, the people that really loved you and were around you every day, if there's someone listening in that may see some warning signs, that may see things that are like, look, baby, you need to slow it down or something like that, what kind of advice would you give them that maybe, they may know the person and they just don't know how to slow them down, but they can see warning signs? What advice would you give them to kind of prevent a 3 month hiatus from say, hey, I gotta slow this down for 3 months?
yeah. It's really tricky because I was so good at my mask. People didn't know.
Hmm.
Even at the time, my husband didn't know. He's now my ex-husband. Not because of this, but because of life circumstances.
Right.
But it's like, even he didn't recognize this. My children didn't. My family didn't. The people who were supposed to be, in a way, closest to me, they didn't even recognize it. And so it's really tricky for me to actually say, I think you need to
Mm-hmm.
do this, you need to do that. For me, the huge lesson was I was recognizing it myself, but I was ignoring it. I was recognizing it myself, but I was too proud, um, too broken, to whatever. And I believed that nobody would care, nobody would want to know. And so I didn't ask for help either.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think the honest, courageous conversations it's like, it looks like you're struggling. Can
Mm-hmm.
I help? it looks like you're struggling. What can I do? What do you need? Because I think often people come in and they go, oh, they need this, they need this, they need this. I'll do this, I can do this, I can do that. And they try and solve it for the person.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody had come to me and said, are you struggling? I see signs that you're struggling. What can I do?
Right.
And if somebody had asked me that, I would have gone, oh, I would have taken that pause, I think. And I would have gone, well, maybe this, maybe that. Yeah. Because I was a health professional and I taught people how not to get into this state.
Yeah, and
So that was tricky as well.
Yeah, that's something that's why another reason I wanted to make sure I asked that question, because as professionals, the people, whether you're actually the colleague or you're the boss or you're just someone that is part of the faculty, whatever it is, you got to make sure you're doing temperature checks. I'm with you. I teach at a school now where you walk by I'm very reluctant to call him the principal or whatever it is you call him, but he'll walk right by you and not say anything, And when you're dealing with kids, when you're in the teaching profession, when you're in the world where you're giving lessons to kids, we as adults, as educators, hey, look, we need to get checked in too. We need to just be asked, how you doing? We need to get asked, if we're going to be able to fill these kids up with knowledge, it's going to be important. And I know there's a lot of business owners and or educators that listen to the show. I'm telling you why it's so important to have the decency, and it takes absolutely nothing to walk up to a colleague and say, hey, how you doing? What you're working on? What's going on outside of work? What sort of new things you want to bring to kids? Because our livelihood is based on educating young people, and we can't educate the young people unless we have our own place in which we're filled up. Because you just said it, you're a professional, you're researching, you're teaching people how not to be in a situation, yet you're going home and there's and all it took was somebody simply saying, hey, Elizabeth, how you doing? Let's go, do some happy hour. I don't know, do something to blow off some steam, or do something to make it so we're filled up. And that is very, very important. And that's why I want to make sure I make that point. And that leads me into the next thing I really want to talk to you about. I talked to Christine about it a little bit, but when it comes to Walt Institute and how you guys started and what it's all about, can you kind of just give us a rundown from your perspective? I got her perspective from the athlete perspective, and we ended up talking about, sports and stuff, but you're coming in from a researcher standpoint, and I'd love to hear how you were able to, kind of where you saw this as an opportunity to really lift these masks and really, listen, you're smiling, you're getting along. If you guys can see, I don't know if you're watching this on video, but you guys see her now, she's smiling, she's having a good time. And, you can tell she is not a victim at all. So, go ahead, the floor is yours.
No. I think just on that last point before I go into
yes, please go. Yeah, there's no time limit.
Awesome, cool. is that people need to trust the niggle. This is a wonderful term from Rebecca Campbell. She's a teacher and spiritual worker, and I love this statement. It's like, trust the niggle. That time when you go, oh, I wonder if they're all right. And then we get too busy and we shift away and we refocus and we don't listen. So I think that's really important with people. And like you're saying, when you check in and you walk past someone hitting the table, walk past somebody and ask them how they're doing, then actually zip it and listen. Because people often go, how you doing? Oh, good, move on. And they're not actually present. They're not actually with you. Look, see, hear, feel. Because when we engage those things as a leader, as a colleague, as a friend, as a family member, it doesn't matter who you are, when you do that with someone, then you can pick up and you can potentially help them to shift things in a different way. So I think that's an important thing to start with.
It really
and
is.
I think
actually the previous guest, I was telling him about, because he works a lot with franchises and stuff like that. So I was telling him about an experience I had at 7-Eleven. It's like, I don't know, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm getting coffee, and the girl who's selling me the coffee just said, "What kind of milk you get? What kind of cream you get? What are you doing up so early?" And she had this great smile on her face. And then I remember telling her, because I had just started the show, remember telling her, man, thank you for that, because I needed that. She goes, look, you have maybe 7 seconds with people. Give them something to smile about, and just, you never know what they're going through. So, that is a very good point. And we could stay on that point if we wanted to for a couple hours, because it is that it is something that you listeners have got to take away from this. it's a world that invites and it creates cynical behavior, cynical things. You have a duty to just lighten somebody else's day, even if it's just for 7 seconds. So anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think throughout all the things that I was learning and recognizing that I struggled with, and because I struggled with decades, I was a leader. I was, as I said, in the top of my profession in New Zealand, and then moved over to Australia to do my PhD. And it was like within all of that, it was like I had all these experiences of failing. And I'm quite happy to call it failing, except I kept getting up and I kept on going. So it wasn't a true failure. It was mistakes. It was things that I was learning. It was those obstacles, those things that I turned into opportunities. But at the time, I didn't know that. I just thought, this isn't working, burst into tears, have my tanty, whatever. Sit in the glumness for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever. And then it was like, ugh. And then it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Because I can't stay here. I don't want to stay here. And so what I've learned is to take those 3 weeks or 2 weeks and shift them into 5 minutes, shift them into 10 minutes. And I'm working on shifting it into like 90 seconds so that I can feel it, recognize it, and move on so much faster. And then I knew that if I was struggling with it, so were many other people. And that's why we created Walt Institute, Women Authentic Leadership Training, because I can help people to not have those weeks, months, years of sitting in the blah. I can give them the tools that are little short, simple strategies that absolutely work. And because I was an occupational therapist and then researcher and educator, it was like, I know these work. I know they work from evidence, and I know they work for myself. And now for the last decade or more, Christine and I work together so closely. It's like, we know that there is this absolute dynamism. This is absolute gold, that authentic leadership principles and the psychology of leadership work. It works when you're getting up and going to work for yourself. It works when you're getting up and leading a team. It works when you're doing corporate takeovers. It works. And these tiny strategies, everyone can put it in place for themselves. And so it was like, this is my mission. When I was 4 years old, I remember walking at some stage I don't know where I was walking, but I remember walking, and I kept thinking, I'm here to change the world. Now, this is a little girl who wasn't listened to. It was like, I want to change the world. And I had no idea how. And this is how I get to change the world. I share my stuff. I share the things that worked for me. And when people resonate with that and they do it and they take it on board and they do it consistently, it absolutely works.
So, walk us through. So I don't want to brush over something that you actually just said in terms of, taking maybe a week's worth of growling or being upset and turning it into a minute or 5 seconds and things like that. Because I read Mel Robbins's 5-second rule, where she was able to kind of train the subconscious mind to, as soon as a tragedy, as soon as some disappointment happens, or as soon as you're in these split-second decisions, you know how to make the decision within 5 seconds. What's your strategy, or are there any examples in which you can share in which you've been able to actually teach that and take somebody from that is, wallowing for the whole 3 or 4 weeks and turn that 4 weeks into a day, and then go from a day to an hour to a moment and things like that?
Absolutely. So the first thing is to recognize it. And so this is what we do in our coaching sessions as well. It's like we help you to recognize that what you're thinking, because it's our thoughts creates our feelings and emotions, and that creates our actions. And so it's all comes back to what our brain is thinking and what our thoughts are. And so if we've got shitty thoughts, we're going to have shitty behaviors. We're going to have shitty emotions. If we recognize those thoughts and we shift them with just a tiny tweak, if we shift our focus, we then release different chemical reactions in our body. This is Joe Dispenza's work. We release different chemical reactions in our body, and therefore we feel different things, and therefore we look in a different place, and we're going to do something different. So we help people to recognize where they're at. The next thing is to always call it as is. recognize if it's shitty, it's shitty. When Christine got that phone call and got that diagnosis in November the 2nd, 2016, that was shitty. That was super, super shitty. And we cried, we sobbed, we supported each other. And then we went, right, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
What can I control? Because it's all about what can I control. I control my thoughts. I control my actions. I control what I can feel about things because that's all within my control. And I never used to know that. And so the other thing that I learned, I can't remember who I learned it from now, I think it might be Joe Shetty, was that to begin training yourself to do this is you put a timer on for 5 minutes. And we do this with our clients quite often.
Mm-hmm.
They put a timer on for 5 minutes and you have a tanty. You rant and rant and rant. Like, that person is such a whatever and blah, blah, blah. And how dare they? And this is full of shit. And I'm feeling like this and I'm so angry and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Have a rant. But it's 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. That's it. When that timer goes off, you shift your state, Tony Robbins stuff. Shift your state, so you move. Yeah, you make a move. Yes. You shift your state, and literally we get people to step sideways or step forward or make a move. Literally put their arms in the air and go and let it go as you breathe. And in that moment, then your head clarity shifts because you are choosing a different response. You're not in the same pattern. And I think this is really important too. It's not that anything's busted or broken or we're wrong or bad, or we don't guilt and shame and judge ourselves. It's nothing about that. It's just a pattern. And so we help people to recognize the pattern and give them those little tools, put it on for 5 minutes, then shift it down to 4, then shift it down to 2, then shift it down to 1.5. I can have a reaction to something and I now can shift it real fast because I recognize how to do it. I have the tools and it's my choice. I can sit in the blah, blah, shitty ass feelings and thoughts, or I get to choose to refocus and go, and I'm going to leave that there and I'm going to choose something else. And the first step about that is gratitude. What can I be grateful for in this moment? And it doesn't matter how big or how nasty or how traumatic or whatever, I hate using that word, but how much we perceive it as the size of that thing. What can I be grateful for? What am I grateful for in this moment? Just one little thing.
What do you attribute the ability to make that shift when things aren't going good or things aren't going bad? Like, let's say you're just on your way to work or on your way to the store, the thoughts that you're having then. Do you put any stock into making sure people have the right thoughts in their mind just as they're going throughout the day so that they're prepared for a shitty moment, like a shitty diagnosis or just some shitty news about a job or whatever? How do you coach them to do it every single moment so that when those moments do happen, they're able to flip that into a positive or rant less time and stuff like that?
There's a couple of things. One is practice. So it takes practice. It's just like going to the gym. If you want a really good set of muscles, you don't just go to the gym 2 or 3 times or for 3 weeks and then go, oh, that was enough. It's practice. And I just keep practicing. And when you practice with love and compassion for yourself, you're not sitting in the blame, shame, judgment, and guilt. And so it's easier to go, whoops, messed up there. I was shitty for like 3 hours at my partner or whatever, or that person who cut me off in the traffic, I swore and yelled and flipped the bird or whatever. I was like, if you recognize what's happened, you recognize what's happened with love and compassion. It was like, whoops, slipped up there. And one thing that my coach taught me was to go whoopsies, because you can't go whoopsies without laughing, because it's like a little kid. It was like, whoopsies. I was like, oh, seriously? And so I practiced that and it works. And then the second thing is, I've lost it. What was the question again?
Practice.
Practice is the first
practice
thing,
first
and the
thing. Yeah.
second thing was set yourself up. Set yourself up. Yes.
Set yourself
So
up.
I set myself up with intention. Yeah, set myself up with intention. So every day that I get up,
Are you?
when I open the curtains, I stretch and I go, I'm thankful and grateful for vibrant health in every cell of my body for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I meditate each morning, all different ways, but I do meditation. For me, I've learned that this sets me up. And it can be 5 minutes of mindfulness. It can be sitting and looking at the window. It can be engaging senses with a cup of tea, whatever it is. For me, I then jump in the ice bath, because for me that builds. And the reason I do that, I go. And I've learned to train that muscle so that I'm quicker at shifting my focus. I'm quicker at getting out of the shitty ass thoughts. I'm quicker at shifting things from blah, blah, blah to what am I grateful for here? Because as soon as we do that, if we go from negative there to choosing a higher thought that serves us better, it's a long way to go. But gratitude's like in the middle. And so we can shift that. And I set myself up. Who do I be today? And I know that Christine would have talked about being a lot, because it's like, who do I be today? Who am I being? And I be the global authentic leader, coach and trainer who I am. That makes a difference in people's lives and helps them live their best life. That's who I be every day. So does that person get shitty ass shitty with their partners? No. So when I do feel like that, I can shift it quicker.
All right, so let's kind of, because I want to make sure I give you the platform a little bit to speak on the Walt Institute and everything that it offers, how you serve people, and what do you see as kind of the next phase to it and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we are a company that coaches and trains people all across the world, because we can do that online, thanks to the wonderful world of technology.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
we also do a whole lot of things in person. So we run retreats. We love running retreats, leadership retreats, and we're just connecting and partnering with another organization who do wellness and yoga and meditation. So we're going to do wellness and leadership retreats together.
Okay.
It's going to be amazing. We just
was there a retreat
talking
coming up
about that.
is there a retreat coming up or?
Yeah, in October. Yeah, is our first date that we've got planned, and we'll have some other ones as well. But yeah, in October.
Okay.
We do online courses for people. So the next one of that is September, which is 6-week authentic leadership courses. So we do live trainings each week, and we have a group that you can join and learn from, and a whole lot of resources. We have a exclusive inner circle membership program where you can join and you get live trainings every month from Christine or myself, and access to over 100 resources in our library. And we do one-on-one coaching as well. So that can fit into anybody's schedule, 30 minutes of coaching, where you do the tiny tweaks every week to 10 days. And so we do those types of things, and we also go into corporate businesses. We're working with one business where we do a series of workshops with their executive team, and also one-on-one coaching with them to grow them even further. It's a 12-month program. So we create things like this. We just love working with people and getting results. The one-off little masterclasses or one-off trainings, workshops, they can help. However, if you want true change, it's that sort of regular touching base, having that absolute amazing ability to tweak.
Absolutely. And what is the best way, if someone's interested in working with you, what's the best way that they can reach out?
So they can contact me personally, Elizabeth at waltinstitute.com. So that's WALT, Women's Authentic Leadership Training. And we also train men as well. So it's not just for women, but
yeah, actually, that was going to be my next question.
Fellas,
yeah, you gotta look out for the stuff that I did. Me and I
we do look out for the fellas.
We were
yeah, when we do workshops.
Yeah, we were
when we do workshops and things like that, we have probably 20% of the people in there are men, because they want to get better at being leaders as well. They want to get more authentic in their leadership, which is fantastic. It's just brilliant. We coach men and women. That's absolutely fantastic. And so, yeah, Elizabeth at waltinstitute.com. We're on Insta, LinkedIn, Facebook, website, waltinstitute.com. You can check us out. We're on YouTube as well. You can check us out. We're putting more and more content up there as well.
Yeah, and that'll all be included in the show notes as well. So the last thing I do, Elizabeth, with all the guests to close out the show is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to being that little girl. You're the youngest of 9 kids. You're reserved. You're shy. You're trying to find your place in this world. Pretend that that young girl has come into the Zoom room. Give her some incredible words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Okay. You are enough. You don't hate yourself. You are perfect just the way you are.
That's amazing. And yes, you are. And if you are in that situation, you're listening to that, do that for you. I do that because I want you guys understanding we're here to serve you. We're here to help you. We're here to do whatever it is we can to get you to understand you're enough and to go after your dreams, go after your potential, and do whatever it is you have to do. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.